And yes, it's a conspiracy, she says. By the way, she's not against this. This is a pro-globalist book. Okay. Stage one. So here she's going to talk about the process of transformation. And she mentions in the case of a young clinical psychologist at a state hospital that was appended to her Aquarian conspiracy questionnaire a 4-page letter that described the process that this person went through that she's saying society will go through. Okay. So here's that microcosm, macrocosm analogy that we've seen so many esotericists talk about, and they really do view it that way. That's why you have to understand, like, the creation of the internet was not this out of nowhere thing. It actually comes out of a kind of a hermetic view of things, which I've talked about many times, and I have essays on that. But so she talks about this person who underwent a process of change, and the first thing that this is like a student, was they experimented with LSD. So this is back in the 70s, and this is a student who was doing their master's, and they wanted to work on psychology at I don't know, Stanford or somewhere. But so the first thing that changed their worldview significantly was LSD. And if you've done LSD, you know, you can testify as to how that might, yes, that can happen. I've had those experiences. We covered it in a boiler room. But this test student is an example, because this person had, you know, fairly conservative traditional views. Then they did the LSD, and then they got into Carlos Castaneda. Oh yeah, and guess what? Carlos Castaneda had CIA money to do what he did. And then this person says, well, I moved on from Castaneda to looking at the notions of different possibilities of human experience, different levels of reality, and all this stuff in a very new agey sense. And this person says, so what I wanted to do was do a lot more LSD, but also combine it with esoteric stuff. Okay, so here we have the actual integration of the esoteric on top of the drug stuff. So it's like, oh, maybe the drugs alone aren't enough. Maybe I need to combine it with, you know, like how Tim Leary has this whole Crowleyan book about, you know, communicating with LSD. You can testify as to how that might. Then they did the LSD, and then they got into Carlos Castaneda. Oh yeah, and guess what? Carlos Castaneda had CIA money to do what he did. And then this person says, well, I moved on from Castaneda to looking at the notions of different possibilities of human experience, different levels of reality, and all this stuff in a very new agey sense. And this person says, so what I wanted to do was do a lot more LSD, but also combine it with esoteric stuff. Okay, so here we have the actual integration of the esoteric on top of the drug stuff. So it's like, oh, maybe the drugs alone aren't enough. Maybe I need to combine it with, you know, like how Tim Leary has this whole Crowleyan book about, you know, communicating with the dead. He actually wrote a book about the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Are you noticing a pattern here? Tibet, LSD, CIA, right? Buddhism. And so meditation was a safer way. I discovered I could achieve a lot of the same goals through meditating that I was doing through LSD when I got good enough at meditation. Oh, and then this person says, I started having the experiences. And this is where this person says, through the meditation, they would start seeing the mandalas. Now, this is a real thing. You will, if you do LSD, you know, you will start to see those kinds of things. Now, you could debate where the mandalas or the geometric patterns that you see come from. I mean, by the way, even if you get have low blood sugar and you start getting a migraine, people prior to migraines will have this same phenomena. You'll start seeing your vision will kind of go into a geometric form. You'll start seeing kaleidoscopes or like Navajo patterns. I'm not joking, by the way. Which is very interesting. Why does your brain start showing you Navajo patterns when you are low on blood sugar and about to have a migraine? I don't know, but this person is mentioning that phenomena, and they're saying, when I got really, really, really deep into Eastern meditation, and I got into Carl Jung, and I realized I should meditate on the mandalas, and then I realized I should join the Zen Center in California, and blah, 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 and I realized that pantheism was the truth. How many times have I said this? All of these drug idiots, if they're really getting enlightenment, wouldn't they come to new conclusions? Why do they always come to the same?
Bingo! Bing, 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 bingo! Erleuchtung führt zu immer und immer und immer und immer wieder denselben Erkenntnissen. Enlightenment plus LSD. Immer dieselben Erkenntnisse und Schlussfolgerungen. Das ist wichtig. Denn 5000 Jahre lang versuchen sie neue, auch immer auf dieselbe. Alle Hippies wollten unterschiedlich sein, rannten aber alle gleich rum.
Old conclusions. Why is it always pantheism and, oh, I'm God, man, we're all God, we're all one? It's always the same bullshit. Now, this is interesting. So, do we want to talk about Teilhard? Okay, let's talk about. So Teilhard, obviously, I'm sure he went through a lot of the same stuff, because Wim Hof says that the Jesuits were doing acid with the CIA and the Jet Set, and as I'll be discussing in my new book, far prior to Timothy Leary, people don't know this, everybody in Hollywood was, the A-listers in Hollywood were all tripping out. Okay, Cary Grant was like the true psychonaut before Timothy Leary. Nobody knows that, though. They think that Timothy Leary's, no, Hollywood started all this, and it was all the Hollywood elite, and they were hanging out with the Huxleys, right? So that was prior to Ken Kesey and all that stuff. So Teilhard, obviously, this loose, quite literally, self-describes himself. Here's Teilhard when he discusses his esoteric experience. I'm not joking. This is him. His of crossing the abyss. Now, where have we heard this before? So she's saying here, okay, what we do in terms of humanity is get past just thinking of the self, and we also have to think of the whole sense. She self-fully had a ceremony like Cthulhu into your heart. I mean, I'm joking, but that's kind of just written. It's like, this is Teilhard's conversion experience over to Lucifer, whatever he thinks he is, his own invented apotheosis. So here's what Teilhard says. He says, I became aware in my mystical experience that I was losing myself. You have disassociation. So at each step of my descent, so he's descending into his inner subconscious, basically, a new was discovered, right? And at each time, I was no longer sure if this other entity was me or if it obeyed me, right? So he's starting to see other entities, basically. When I had to stop my exploration, the pathway faded beneath my steps, and I found a bottomless abyss. So he's like descending down stairways in his dark trip or whatever. And then he sees an abyss. And out of this abyss arose, I knew not from where, the current state, which I dare to now call my life. So then Marilyn Ferguson goes into how, he went through the process, and he was initiated, he was enlightened. And then, of course, Marilyn says that all religions are basically describing the same process. No, actually, Christianity has always said this is demonic. This is counter initiation, right? So you have initiation into Christianity, baptism, Lord's Supper, Eucharist, etc. There's a counter initiation. Did you know that? Did you know that Satan, Lucifer, has a counter initiation? And that's not my theory. This is a theory that many people across many religions have written about. If you read Dugin's essay about the Russian Orthodox mystery, he speaks at the end of that essay in a very fascinating way about Luciferian initiation. I'm not advocating everything Dugin says by saying that. You don't have to remind me. I know better than, I guarantee you, 99.9% of you out there what Dugin says, because I've actually read his books. So don't bitch at me about Dugin. But Dugin explains that principle of dark initiation in that essay. And he's saying the same thing about it that Marilyn Ferguson is saying. So let's take another example of this. Let's take a UN figure who, get this is crazy. Another UN figure who underwent the process of initiation. Are you seeing a pattern here? Okay. It's not just monetary. It's not just an ology. It's not just a political commitment to globalism and democracy. Okay. Many of the people propelling this movement and these ideas consciously and constantly and consistently talk about undergoing a religious conversion initiation experience. And many times, not every time, but many times it includes drugs and LSD. So get this, MK Ultra, yes, it's studied scientifically, it's studied by the CIA and the Pentagon and all that, and we know about all those projects and programs. I've talked about it ad nauseum. Many of the people involved in it believe it is religious. Huxley believed it was religious. He talks about that. He talks about it in Eyeless and God, his book. He talks about it in the that it's religious. So you think, oh, I'm smart. I have figured out I'm an alt-right smart person, and I've realized that there's no God. I realized that there are races. You dummy. Because now the intellect of the West has known there are races the entire time. You haven't discovered something new by figuring out that there are races. Big whoop. There were people talking about and weaponizing races and dysgenics hundreds of years ago. And you think you're so smart because you're an atheist and you think that there's no religions, and I'm an alt-right atheist and I'm so smart because my IQ, Jared Taylor, I have a white IQ, my white IQ. And I'm not dissing Jared Taylor. We've actually had brief Facebook chats. I don't agree with his Darwinism, obviously, but I'm just joking around here. I'm trying to stress the point that it's religious for the people at the top too, dummies. And they talk about it. And they're not always lying. So she talks about Dag Hammarskjöld. And who is Dag Hammarskjöld? He's a top UN guy. What did Dag Hammarskjöld say about his experience of the abyss? Why do all these people talk about crossing the abyss? All right, here's another guy. Let's see. Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, talked about the abyss. And then she goes on to say, Dag Hammarskjöld describes this experience himself. I don't know who or what put the question. I don't know where it was put, but I remember saying at some point, when in this process, I answered to someone or something, and at that point, at that hour, I was certain that that existence is meaningful, and that my life is in self surrender to some higher ultimate purpose. So Dag Hammarskjöld believed that he had some entity conveying to him that his purpose in being this great UN guy was for some greater New World Order goal. I wonder what spirit impelled him to that. Jonas Salk. Jonas Salk was committed to social evolutionary change and transformation And she goes on to say that he underwent this. And I covered Salk, and I showed definitively, and that video has like 400 thumbs up and like 4 thumbs down and like 10,000 views already. And I show you that Jonas Salk is not a hero, but he is a genocidal maniac and a religious, committed person. Do you understand that Jonas Salk admits that he is a religiously committed man in that book to Luciferianism? Do you understand that I showed you in Arthur Kessler's book that he doesn't care about Jews, but he is very serious about his Luciferianism, and he's very committed to it? And by the way, guess what else I noticed? Another interesting pattern in Jacques Attali that Arthur Kessler and Salk talked about. Why do they all talk about cannibalism? Interesting. They all talk about cannibalism. And they all say that it's just a natural process. So are you starting to see that maybe Pizzagate, maybe ritual cannibalism is not that crazy of an idea for the elite? Maybe Hostel, maybe Eli Roth is not making up stuff. People don't believe that. And I remember when Alex Jones used to say that a long time ago. He would say the globalists believe in cannibalism. I was like, what the freak? No, they don't. That's crazy. What bullshit is Alex Jones saying? And I could not find proof. I could not find texts that showed at that time. This is like, when I was 25, when I first heard Alex saying this. I was like, what is he talking about? UN people believe in cannibalism. I've never seen this. And yes, they say it is a natural practice. Why wouldn't it be if you're a Darwinist, right? Everything's natural. So here we go. Here is, let's see. So she goes on to talk about Carl Jung. Carl Jung is a total Luciferian. I don't know why these people come at me trying to vindicate Carl Jung. Carl Jung has an essay called Aeon, where he says that Jesus and Lucifer are twin sides of the same coin. So anyway, what's very crucial in terms of Marilyn Ferguson is that she is literally talking about Illuminists, okay? Now, she doesn't mean Illuminati like in the sense of the 17th century Bavarian group, although there are some parallels to the 17th century Bavarian Illuminati. If you know about the French Revolution, you will know that the overriding philosophy of either the right wing or the left wing of the French Revolution period was Masonic. Now, this is detailed in Fire in the Minds of Men. It's detailed in Terry Melanson's extremely scholarly treatment of the history of the Illuminati as an actual group. So you don't necessarily have a hand-by-hand initiation of, it's not like Aleister Crowley was initiated into the same thing as Adam Weishaupt. They weren't. Just because people use the term Illuminist or whatever doesn't mean they're of the same group. And they're not all bankers. There were plenty of nobles in Europe that were Illuminists and that were initiated into this rationalist religion, is what it is. It's a kind of rationalist naturalism, right? So it shares a lot of similarities with Plato and Platonism, the actual, quote, Illuminists, and that's why they taught communism. So they were interested in opposing Orthodox religion, established religion, and monarchy, and the establishment of new supposed orders, right? Now, what some of these books do not go into, for example, Billington's classic book, mysteriously doesn't really suggest where the money came for all these groups. And guess what? It came from big bankers. And they weren't just Jewish. There were Protestant bankers, plenty of them. So yes, there was a joining of forces of Protestant and Rothschild banking interests, and I detailed that in depth in my Treasure and Hope talks. So acting like I don't talk about this stuff's just not true. So the Declaration of the Rights of Man, this is, again, one of these earlier formative ideas of, how we're going to have Masonic liberty, and you can be a libertarian or you can be a communist. Either one. We don't care because you're on the same team. The French Revolution was a revolution of merchants and bankers against nobles and church. And the lodges fostered it, undeniably, undisputably. There are tons of historical books that admit this. It's not even in dispute. And that's why we have two strands of masonry. You have British Lodge, the York Rite, and all that crap. And you have Grand Orient Masonry. Grand Orient Masonry tended to accept the radical Jacobin egalitarian stuff, liberty, equality, fraternity. And the York Rite tried to maintain the kind of Girondin British Crown crap. But both of these suck. They're both bullshit. They're both fake. They're both a scam. And they're both at the top probably run by the same people. So, again, this is all nonsense. It's all a scam. And, yes, it is true ideologically that many of the ideas of Weishaupt, of the Hermetic characters, the time of Hegel, and Hegel was influenced by Hermeticism, it is true that those ideas pass into modern Hermetic groups, Rosicrucians, Crowleyans, esotericists, New Age, right? The New Age does arise from these ideological strands, right? And yeah, I'm sure that many Masons, excuse me, many Masons have in a sense been initiated over time into these same mysteries. So yes, in a way, that's how there is a kind of continuum of Illuminism from the time of Weishaupt and the French Revolution down to today, because there are still Masons today, and they still engage in teaching the same ideas, and they're still at the forefront of all the revolutions. And so guess what? Today's revolutions are just the outworking of the old revolutions. That is the key. And good old Turd Ferguson here admits it for us in her book. Now, just because she admits it doesn't mean it's true, but she does source her stuff. And it's what I've been talking about for so long. It's the same plan. The same plan of capitalism and communism have the end goal of Brave New World. And that's what Huxley explains at the beginning of Brave New World. And that's why the characters in Brave New World have capitalist and Marxist names. It's the year of our Ford. It's Bernard Marx, right? Because they have the same end goal. What's the end goal? Well, you're told it was liberty. Oh, but guess what? We screwed you over, bait and switch. It's actually slavery. Now, is there a Zionist role in this? Well, there wasn't Zionism at this time. But yes, there were rabbis and there were mysticists, Kabbalists, who were influential on people like Hegel. But Hegel is not a tool of Moses Hess or some, Hegel's not a tool of some rabbi. Hegel is Hegel, right? And German philosophy, German idealism can be influenced by multiple sources. And guess what? Kabbalism is Platonism repackaged. Uh-oh. Whoa, big surprise. Kabbalism is Platonism repackaged. You can even look at our good friend Al Pike. I'm joking, he's not our good friend. But I'm saying you can look at Albert Pike to see in Morals and Dogma that the whole thing is like this 700-page treatise putting all the religions together. Well, where have we heard that? Marilyn Ferguson's Aquarian Conspiracy, blending all the religions together. Where did we hear that originally? French Revolution, Adam Weishaupt, all those characters. All the religions are just different philosophies all coming together. And who supported all of this in the 20th century? Who put the most money into it? Let's find out. We have to back to basics. We have to go back to basics. So many people not aware of the basics. So the authorized biography of the Rockefellers is pretty indispensable. It should be in everybody's library just because you're going to see by admission that the fathers of the modern world in America have a unified plan. So let's take, for example, the ecumenist movement. So we're talking about Pike, and we're talking about the Revolution, and we're talking about the Aquarian New Age conspiracy. Where did this get interjected into all the different American religions? In the Rockefeller's authorized biography on page 150, we have Daddy Rockefeller becoming involved in the idea that all religions might ultimately be one. He inherited grandmother Eliza Rockefeller's tendency to consolidate and trim away all wastefulness. The philanthropic field where he was most interested was Protestant theology and Protestant education. The older he got, the less involved Junior Rockefeller became in the actual Baptist church where he grew up. He saw that by stubborn adherence to fundamentalism and by debating church doctrine, the Baptist church and Protestant church was likely to lose all influence in the world. So what did he do? Well, he became deeply involved in the presently existing interchurch world movement, which was based in the optimism of a World War II victory in Europe. So now the ecumenism already existed, but it wasn't as powerful until these people get involved. Another crusade was that he felt like all of the factions of Christianity in America should come together. This formation of the Federal Council of Churches.
Das ist ja spannend. Die wollen jetzt Zyklon B bei den Hinrichtungen in Amerika wegen Wahlbetrug benutzen. Das ist ja natürlich skandalträchtig. Was passiert? Die Presse wird sich aufregen. Wie kann er es wagen? Wie kann er es wagen? Nazi, 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 Nazi. Und dann kommt die Holocaust-Dokumentation. Und Nazi, Nazi, Holocaust. Und dann im Backflash sind plötzlich die Bösen, die Nazis. Und dann kommt raus mit Auschwitz, wer das wirklich war und wie und warum, wieso, weshalb. Ha! Tja, so läuft's.
In 1908 was the birth of the official ecumenical movement. Junior Rockefeller became swept up in the mission. He took it to its first. He took his first and last plunge into the public arena as something more akin to a ceremonial figure. He addressed the Baptist Social Union in 1917 and spoke of the creation of a one-world religion. In 1917, Junior Rockefeller spoke to Baptists about the creation of a one-world religion. Page 161. Excuse me, 151. I would set aside all denominations. I would create one world religion, blah, blah, blah. Junior himself got involved heavily in the world church movement, contributing more than 1 million to the initial movement and eventually 40 million. This is in 20s money. Eventually 200 million. What was the idea behind it? Moving away from, quote, fundamentals of...
Aus dem Fürstentum Schwarzburg-Rudolfstedt. Das waren doch die wir gestern beim Gernot gefunden haben, als Uradel des Bösens. Tom.rau. Ich würde umziehen an deiner Stelle.
Belief in preaching a social gospel. So the social gospel is a creation of the Rockefellers. Page 152. The Council on Foreign Relations and the rest of the internationalist organizations, which Mott and Fosdick is actually the Rockefeller minister. He's their creation, right? And the Gates Foundation, all these things. This is all part of the modernist movement in churchianity in America. This is all on page 152. So we need a new gospel for a new world order. Junior becomes the most important financier of liberal Protestantism of this entire era. So how was it that Protestantism in a few decades completely collapsed in on itself in America? How did it become cuckianity? I just told you. By millions and millions and millions. Junior himself personally, after his death, had contributed 75 million to this. And they set up an own Union Theological Seminary. They are behind Reinhold Niebuhr. They are behind Henry Pitt Van Dusen, John C. Bennett, all these supposedly famous liberal Protestants. They're Rockefeller frontmen, dude. And this is publicly in their authorized biography. They created the Riverside Church, their own personal church. This is one of the best things I've ever heard to describe this. The main portal of the Rockefellers' Riverside Church, get this, has giant statue, or it says has statues, I'm assuming they're big, of Confucius, Moses, Hegel, and Dante, Muhammad, and Darwin. What the fuck? So how is anybody going to defend ecumenism after this? Anybody. Especially if you're some Roman Catholic or Orthodox. How are you going to defend ecumenism? I'm reading from the Rockefeller's biography. And it says it was to destroy the fundamentals and create a new religion. Oh my gosh. And I want to read one more section. I've mentioned this so many times, but I'm going to mention it again because I guess, you know, we get new listeners and people don't know this. And my feminism articles have been shared thousands of times. So that means they've had maybe 50 to 100,000 views. And a lot of people have messaged me freaking out over these. And they can't believe that I talked about it. But where is this chapter? Abby Rockefeller is who funded feminism in America. And in particular, third wave feminism. I always lose this spot. But I just want to make it clear, and I'm going to read it to you, if I can find it, that the feminist movement, and particularly at University of Chicago, that's the Rockefeller University. Did you not know that? Who do you think set up University of Chicago? Where do you think all the neocons come from? From the Rockefeller, from the Henry Kissinger seat, the chair of international relations or whatever his chair is. They come from the Rockefeller University, dude. Do you think Jews set up all the universities in America? No. Where is Abby Rockefeller and her feminism? Yeah, crap. I've lost my note. Well, anyway, I'll put a link below. It's actually in my article. If you want to read my article about feminism, I cite the actual section in the book about Abby. Maybe I can pull it up here because people are going to bitch if I don't actually show it. 300 people in the middle of the day. That's awesome. Thank you for joining us here. Feminism. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Rockefeller. Abby. Yeah, here it is. Page 599 to 600. And it reads, late in 1966, Abby Rockefeller was visited by a different kind of supplicant. Roxanne Dunbar was requesting funds to be sent to a delegate of a coming feminist conference in Chicago, which is a major gathering of its time. Together with Dana Densmore, Betsy Warrior, is that a real name? And a few other harbingers, the new women's movement, I guess this is third wave, Roxanne had already founded and put on a inaugural issue of the Journal of Female Liberation. And Abby says, quote, I considered myself a feminist my entire life. I never would have used that word because I hated anything female. What? Not a case of self-loathing, but the realization that there was nothing in what I had been given as a woman that I liked. Well, that would be self-loathing. All the associations were repellent to me. Every feminine mannerism was repellent. Putting on makeup, wearing clothes that men wanted and designed, acting the way men designed. It seemed as if it was a setup to make women contemptible to men so that men would hate them. What the fuck? With Roxanne and others, Abby Rockefeller started Cell 16, the premier feminist organization. Well, what do you know? The giant white wasp dynasty is behind feminism. Unbelievable. And this is what no idiot social justice warrior, no idiot leftist can ever figure out, especially if they're a boomer. You try explaining this to boomers, you're wasting your damn time, right? I'll tell you that for sure. You're never going to get a boomer to figure this stuff out. But by the way, doesn't this show the idiocy too of the alt-light who tries to say that, oh, we're against third wave feminism, we're not against old feminism? Dude, all your feminisms are baloney. They're all fake. Now, there were Gloria Steinem. Gloria Steinem was a CIA agent. Everybody knows this now. But this is how. How was it that the feminists got their power? You think these Jewish intellectuals, these women, these horrible Jewish feminists had the money to create themselves into giant figures? Gloria Steinem? No, it's because the Rockefellers promoted them as these giant figures. That's how. And I just showed it to you from why do you think David Horowitz writes the Rockefeller biography? Collier and Horowitz. Why do you think Aaron Russo interviews Nick Rockefeller about feminism in Miss Magazine? And that's because feminism is satanic. Now, Marilyn Ferguson talks about all this stuff, and Changing Images of Man talks about all this stuff because the idea was inversion. I can't read your chats if you make them all tards. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. That's the goal. Make them all tards, my dear chat, super chat there. I will, by the way, if you want, I will be reading questions. As you see, this chat is pretty smoking fast here, so I can't get to everybody's chats. So if you do want me to read your question, send a super chat. So anyway, we've been dissecting the Rockefellers. If you just tuned in, we've been dissecting Marilyn Ferguson's Aquarian conspiracy, and Marilyn Ferguson points out again that the rise of the feminine and the changing images of man, this was fostered, my cigarette's going out, this was fostered by the Rockefeller money. Playboy magazine had CIA funding. When you hear CIA, just think Rockefeller. Okay, does that make sense? Can you figure that out? Who set up the CIA? Well, British intelligence. Okay, but who put the money into setting it up? The OSS, the Rockefellers, together with the British intelligence. How is that? Well, David describes that in his memoirs, actually, because David Rockefeller was an intelligence agent. If I recall, he was OSS. And so he says in his memoirs that his time in the OSS as intelligence asset or agent, whatever his role was, analyst, I don't remember, what it did was just enable him to have a bazillion business contacts. So that's how he set all that up. That's why
we're chosen by the Rockefellers. Hello, Arkansas. There you go. Why do you think Walmart rose to the top? Walmart's in Arkansas. Who else is in Arkansas? The Rockefellers.
So.
Klingt blöd.
Naja. Hier fehlt irgendwas noch an dem Gerät. Noch ein zweites Gerät dran. Aber es ist immer wieder cool. Gestern mal wieder rumgespielt. Aber mit Kopfhörern klingt das besser als mit meiner Anlage. Oh. Naja, wie man es könnte. Theoretisch zu viele. bisschen schnell vielleicht, das Lied, ja. Toni. Oh. Wie war's bei Super Mario? Nicht ganz. Wieso ist das so schnell? Keine Ahnung. Oh, geil. Das sind solche Hippie-Sounds. Müssen wir bloß noch mit Systemen kriegen. Oh, ist laut hier. Gut, jetzt muss ich bloß noch Musik machen können. Wieso ist es so laut? Oh. Gut. Kick ist zu hart. Gut. Was schreibt der geiler Sound? Nö, Langeweile. Wieso ist das so verschnurzelt? Liegt bestimmt daran. Ach ja, 170, dieser krass. So, runtergehen. So, und Swing fliegt raus. Achte brauchen wir nie. Gut, und Exit. Kein Bock mehr. So. Was könnte heute so passieren? Alles oder auch nichts. Fehlt noch in der Mitte. Was ist denn das? Klingt auch blöd. weiter. Klingt irgendwie schwul. So, was machen wir? Naja, irgendwie so. Gut. Wie ihr vielleicht gemerkt habt, habe ich pure Langeweile. Mehr als 22 neue Vorträge für Raps. Ich brauche jetzt nicht noch einen neuen fertig machen, das ist doch bescheuert. Kann ich ja eh nicht anhalten. Deswegen, ich antworte mit dem Mittelfingersprache und geht weiter. Ansappeln dürfen, bla bla bla, easy peasy, hier dasselbe und sie zeigen mit dem Finger auf die wenigen, die keine tragen. Hä? Und sie zeigen mit dem Finger auf die wenigen, die keine tragen. Okay, was willst du mir jetzt damit sagen? Mit dem Finger auf Leute zeigen, die keine tragen. Erklär's mir. Nicht, dass ich das hören will, aber einfach nur so die Antwort in der Mittelfingersprache und geht weiter. Okay, was hat das eine jetzt mit dem anderen zu tun? Hilf mir, in deinen Geist einzusteigen. Gratuliere, der 100. Message ist abgeschickt worden. Ist mir egal. Du kommunizierst mit den Aliens nie wirklich. Ach, ging um die Maske. Gut. Naja. Wenn der ganze Unfug mal vorbei ist, dann werde ich meine ganze Technik mal zusammenschließen. Die Base Station und die Kork und die Kork und die Kork und die, ich weiß nicht, wie das Ding heißt, und die 707 und die 505 und die mit dem Laptop, mit dem Tablet übers Mischpult, alles mal irgendwie mal ab. Ich muss aber erstmal einen Tisch organisieren, wo ich alles draufstelle, wo es dann nicht einstaubt. Gut. Da er ja förmlich darauf wartet, endlich Beschäftigung zu bekommen, Neues Projekt Just a Clown World. Willkommen in Clownhausen. Alle Stasi-Meldungen auf deutschem Boden bräuchte ich. Hab bloß keinen Bock, die selber rauszusuchen. So. Na, Google, Mensch, mach hin, ja. So, hier. Stasi-Mitarbeiter 2020. So, die Bornholm-Akte und die Bornholm und Rosenholm, aus Holm. Akte brauche ich definitiv noch. Ehemalige Stasis in den Behörden, die Kinder aus der Stasi, Charité, Stasi-Major gekündigt in der Charité. Und das erst im 2020. Stasi-Agenten, die berühmtesten Stasi-Akten, noch immer tausende Anträge. Schalke-Aufsichtsrat war Ex-Stasi-Boy. Ja, Stasi, die deutsche Staatssicherheit. Geheimnis bis zum letzten Tag. Feind ist, wer anders denkt. Das klingt wie was wurde aus der Stasi, Merkel? Auflösungsprozess der Stasi. Die Chronologie. Stasi-Mitarbeiter, noch 50 Ex-Stasi-Mitarbeiter in Behörden, im Ministerium der Sicherheit. Die Listen stehen bereit. Der Spitzel war nur mittels weg. Am 31. März wurden alle Stasi-Leute entlassen. Selbst der Hausmeister. Ha! Kabinettsbeschluss. Staatsunterlagen sollen ins Bundesarchiv. So. Berliner Staatssekretär. Oh. So, also hätten wir André Horn, Staatssekretär, in Berlin unter Hashtag SAD Old Kader New Marxismus. Gut, passt. Was haben wir noch? Richtlinie kritisierte Aufarbeitung der Verbrechen, Museum in runden Ecke. So viel Stasi steckt der CDU, Ex-Thüringer Kommunal. Sehr spannend. Berliner Verwaltung. Ex-Stasis und die Geheime Akademie für operationspsychologische Kriegsführung gegen Andersdenkende. Ungebrochene Karriere, hunderte Ex-Stasis in, wo sind sie denn? China. Politik für die Kinder, geschredderte Akten. Welche Rolle spielt Josef? Wer ist Josef? So. Thüringer Abgeordnete, Stasi. $4.600 Stasi-Mitarbeiter, nur in Thüringen. So, also machen wir die OPK-Akte. OPK-Akte, die operative Personenkontrolle. Operative Personenkontrolle. CDU plus FDP plus Herr Maaßen wollen jetzt 4600 SED. Leute, haben sich ganz schön was vorgenommen. Aufarbeitung kennt kein Verfallsdatum. So. Oh, geil. AfD-Mann taucht in Stasi-Akte auf. Ha, ist doch perfekt. Aktion Ungeziefer. Ungeziefer. AfD-Mann. Grüne enttarnen, ganz wichtig, da können wir uns das auch. Ex-Stasi Spitzel bei der AfD. Wetten, der wurde reingesetzt in die AfD. Ehemaliger Stasi-Grenzoffizier leitet Geschäftsstelle der Linken. Stasi und Grenzoffizier. Plus Grenzoffizier leitet Geschäftsstelle. Die Linke. Gut. Experten sollen in Thüringen nach Ex-Stasi-Leuten suchen. Umsetzung der Stasi-Überprüfung fordert die CDU. Aufarbeitung des Unrechts. Unrechtsstaat. Aufarbeitung. Blockade. Aber Adolf 24 Stunden TV. Das sind die LSB. Noch nie gehört. Oh, der Ministerpräsident Ramelow steckt auch drin. Pösniks Geschäftsführer der Volkssolidarität. Okay. Also hätten wir auch Ramelow. Blockiert. Und Geschäftsführer Volkssolidarität, auch Ex-Stasi. Das Stasi-Zalando-Komplex. Mhm. Matthias Grüne, Landesgeschäftsführer der Linken, auch Stasi. Ein roter Drahtseil. Landesgeschäftsführer von Die Linke, Matthias Günther. Matthias Günther. Oh, 3 von 4, umgerechnet 75% der Linkspartei Thüringen sind SED. Ui, das könnte zum Problem werden. Ex-Stasi-Spitzel, haben wir vorhin schon. I.M. Paul Grün war ein williger und wirtschaftlicher Thüringen Sportuntersucher, der Informant. Wie viel SED in DDR steckt noch in der Linkspartei? Einmal Stasi, immer Stasi. Übernachten im Stasi-Bunker in Thüringen. Okay, alle Jahre wieder. Doping. Ha. Krass. Es gibt echt Opferzahlen zur Stasi-Vergewaltigung. Ethikkommission stuft Staatsgang als parlamentsunwürdig. Das ist gut. Parlamentsunwürdig. Parlamentsunwürdig. Pastor oder Stasi-Spitzel? Sushi, Sandmann, Sozialismus. Die sind das so krass. Gut. Jetzt gehen wir Stasi Vergangenheit. Berlin. Stasi Museum. Staatssekretär. Hat man vorhin schon. Der Chef des Berliner Verlages. Perfekt. Chef Berlin Verlag. As a day. So, SPD, Linke und Grüne haben kein Interesse an der Aufarbeitung. SPD, Linke und Grüne. Die GroKo Rot-Rot-Grün, wie sie sich nennen, oder SED 2.0, wie wir sie nennen.